In this video, we're going to play with bullet holes. By the end of this video, you'll be able to spell your name out. But let's be real here, if Red Dead taught us anything, it's that players love to draw. Hey guys, John here with GameDevHQ. We're going to be continuing on where we left off with creating our Gatling gun turret. If you want to follow along, the link to the previous video is in the description. If you're new to this channel, welcome and hit that subscribe button. We release 3 videos every week focused on game development tutorials and news. Thanks to all of our awesome Plus and professional members, you guys keep this weekly content coming, so special thanks to Six, OJ Zach, Laurie DK, and Lucky Ducky 10. So on our wall, I've gone ahead and I've created a new tag for the wall. You'll see here I've named it tag, or I've named it wall, and to add a new tag, you just go to add tag, and I've added the tag wall. And then I went back to my wall and I assigned it the wall tag. Now with it tagged as wall, inside of the raycasting, I can check for that tag, and if we hit the wall, then we can go ahead and move forward. So if we hit the wall, what do we need to do? Well, we need to instantiate now some bullet holes. So that's where this is going to go, instantiate bullet holes. Okay, so what is the logic to instantiate a bullet hole? Well, we basically need to take the point of contact with the collider, which is our hidInfo.point, and I want to instantiate a bullet hole there. In order to instantiate a bullet hole, we need a reference to that object. So here, we're going to create a new game object variable that's going to store the bullet hole. So game object, and we'll say underscore bullet hole prefab. And because it's private, we need to add the serialization attribute above it so that we can assign it in the inspector. If we head back to our main camera script, we can now add a bullet hole prefab. So in my scene, I have a bullet hole prefab here. I'm going to delete that one, and we're going to use the one from the project view. So if we look here under my props, we have weapons, we have our bullet, and then here inside of the prefabs, we have a few bullet holes that we can work with. So we're going to instantiate these bullet holes randomly, but first let's get one working, and then we'll work on randomizing between these 4. So if I select my main camera, it's looking for a bullet hole, and I'm just going to drag that into the slot. Now that we have a reference to the game object that we want to instantiate, we can begin the instantiation process. The first thing we need to do is use the keyword instantiate and pass in the object that we want to instantiate, which is our bullet hole. So here, bullet hole prefab, and if we just do this when we fire, and you'll see here that as I fire, we get thousands, if not several hundred bullet holes here in the hierarchy. So let's go back to our script, and let's actually instantiate these bullet holes where we fire. So what we need to do here is we need to actually instantiate them at the hit point position. So using the instantiate keyword, we have a few options here, the method, and you'll see here that we can have the object original, the parent, we have the object original parent and instantiate world space, and there are several options that have changed over the years, but what we're looking for here is 4 of 10, where we can instantiate an object, I can specify a position for that object to be instantiated, and then I can choose a quaternion rotation, which is how rotations are handled. So the position to spawn this object is at the point of contact, which is our hidInfo.point. That's where our raycast hit the wall. So here we have hidInfo.point. And the next one is going to be the quaternion rotation. Now, the quaternion rotation is going to take a quaternion, but what's more important is what is the rotation of this bullet hole? Well, the rotation is going to be the surface normal of the wall, which is perpendicular to the wall, so that the bullet hole faces outwards. Now, in order to do that, we can access the normal of our hit position using the hidInfo.normal. The problem here, though, is that it's a vector 3. So here it says the normal of the surface the ray hit. So if I want to use that vector 3, I need to use a quaternion. So I type in quaternion, and there's a method here called lookRotation. And lookRotation creates a rotation with the specified forward and upwards direction. And you'll see here that I can actually pass in a vector 3 forward. Well, for us, that vector 3 forward is going to be the hidInfo.normal. So by passing that in, we can save our scene, and we'll be good to go. Let's run Unity. All right, and you'll see here that we have bullet holes being traced on our wall. Okay, so we have our bullet holes, and you'll notice here that they're actually drawing itself even if I don't click. And that's because our raycast isn't actually looking for any mouse input. So to quickly fix that, we can just hop back in here, and all we're gonna do here is we're only gonna cast this ray if my mouse is being held down. So here, I'm just gonna add a new if statement, and we're gonna check for a mouse down event. So here, if input.getMouseButtonDown, or get mouse button, if I'm holding down the left click, we want to cast this ray. And we're going to place all of this code inside of it. Now, an alternative solution here is to actually create a shoot method. So if we go below our fixed update here, we can clean this up by creating a shoot method. And then we'll go ahead and place all of this raycasting code within there. So we'll copy that out, put it inside of shoot, and then here, as long as we're holding down the left mouse button, we're just going to call the shoot method. And now we're good. Okay, so we have our bullet holes displaying. What we need to do now is let's randomize which bullet hole is actually being displayed. In order to do that, we have 4 bullet holes. We need to choose which one gets instantiated, which means we need a reference to each bullet hole we'd like to instantiate. So instead of having just one variable for a bullet hole, let's turn this into an array. By using the square brackets, we now have a list of bullet holes to choose from. So here, bullet hole prefabs, we'll make that plural. Save this, hop back into Unity. And you'll see here that we now have an array of bullet hole prefabs. So what we need to do here is specify how many bullet holes are we working with. We're going to specify 4. And then here in element 0, we're going to place bullet hole 1, 2, 3, and 4. So by placing these in here, we now have a reference through code to each of these bullet holes. What we need to do now is actually instantiate one of those bullet holes randomly. So to do that, we can access the array, and then to access one of the elements, we open up a brace here, and if I want the first bullet hole, it would be 0, the second would be 1, 2, and 3. What I want to do is randomize it. So what I'm going to do is we're going to actually specify a random value within here, random.range. And the range is going to be between 0 and however many bullet holes we have. So here we have 0, followed by the bullet hole prefabs.length, which is how many bullet holes we have to work with. And that's going to assign a random bullet hole to our instantiation here. Now, this is a little dirty, so what we can do instead is we can actually take this line of code here, and we can remove this and put it up above. Let's say we want to do an operation that's going to handle getting a random bullet hole. So here we can say assign random bullet, and we can use the var keyword to keep this really clean. We can say var, which is just a universal data type, and here we can say var will say bullet hole to use equals, we'll say the bullet hole array, because I want to access a random one from here, and then we'll put our random range code in here. So random range between 0 and however many holes we have. So bullet hole prefab.length. Okay. What that's going to do is going to assign a random game object to this variable here. Alternatively, I could type out just game object because that's what's being returned. And here we have a bullet hole to use. And then I'm going to instantiate whatever bullet hole was assigned. So here we just say bullet hole to use. Let's save this, head back into Unity, and we should have random bullets appearing. So here we go. Going to run this, and you'll see here that we have all sorts of bullet holes in our hierarchy being displayed, and they only get displayed when we fire. So that wraps up how to create some bullet holes. In the next video, we're going to optimize this with object pooling.